Welcome back. Those were the headlines. Now the news in details with Mihal Al-Hamalawi. The Tokyo International Conference on Development in Africa wrapped up in the Tunisian capital. Addressing the closing session, Tunisian President Kais Saied said that African citizens must be able to attain rights to healthcare, education. He said that security cannot be achieved without development, adding that human development and the right to education must be provided to all nations. Japan's Prime Minister also addressed the closing session of TICAD 8 via video conference, stressing the importance of African development. At the two-day Tokyo International Conference on African Development, which wrapped up on Sunday in the Tunisian capital, Japan pledged to pump $3 billion during the coming 3 years to develop Africa. $300 million of the amount will be in mutual funding with the African Development Bank to facilitate food production. Participants stressed the importance of fair and transparent funding to enhance development in Africa. More details.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on Saturday pledged $30 billion over 3 years for Africa in a virtual address to a development conference in Tunis, aiming to counter China's growing continental influence. The Japanese Foreign Ministry said the 8th Tokyo International Conference on African Development TICAD 8 takes place amid a complex international environment caused by the coronavirus pandemic and the war in Ukraine. Host country Tunisia is among the countries bearing the brunt of global supply chain disruptions and price spikes unleashed by these two factors, since it is heavily import dependent and is not an energy player. In his opening speech, Tunisian President Kais Saied urged delegates to search together for ways for African peoples to achieve the hopes and dreams of the first generation after independence. Praising Japan's strong track record of development and preserving its culture, he said that the world cannot continue as it was. He said Africa cannot watch its people live through poverty. Kishida, speaking over live video from Tokyo after testing positive for COVID-19 days earlier, pledged that Japan will invest both public and private funds worth $30 billion over the next 3 years across Africa. TICAD's bottom-up, multi-sectoral and co-partnership approach is welcome in Africa and offers a model for the value of long-term partnerships to strengthen development, peace and security, Kais Saied said. Kishida said TICAD's bottom-up, multi-sectoral and co-partnership approach is welcome in Africa and offers a model for the value of long-term partnerships to strengthen development, peace and security. He said that to improve the lives of Africans, Japan will provide up to $5 billion in co-financing with the African Development Bank. The pledge comes as China cements its influence on the continent with its Belt and Road Infrastructure Initiative, and as experts express concern about the long-term sustainability of some African nations borrowing from Beijing. At the conference, Cairo called on the world to support Africa face impact of global crises. Madbouli called on the international community to coordinate on multiple fronts and take immediate and effective steps to support the economies of African countries' economies in confronting challenges resulting from the impact of various global crises.
Addressing the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD 8, on behalf of President Abdel Fattah Sisi, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli called for supporting the African countries by providing them with stimulus packages to boost their economies amid food and energy crises. Madbouli thanked Japan for its efforts to render the TICAD successful and congratulated Tunisian President Kais Saied on the excellent organization of the gathering. Madbouli also highlighted a number of economic challenges that severely affected the African continent, calling for boosting cooperation between Japan and the African states to achieve sustainable development. On the sidelines of TICAD, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli met with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida via video conference. During the meeting, Madbouli offered condolences on the death of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe after an assassination accident, stressing Egypt's solidarity with Japan. Madbouli confirmed Egypt's appreciation for the support provided by the Japanese side in many important development projects, as the Grand Egyptian Museum. Meanwhile, Madbouli stressed Egypt's aspiration for Japan to start taking the necessary executive steps to establish a Japanese industrial zone in the Suez Canal Economic Zone in a way that achieves the common interests of both sides. The Prime Minister also hailed the Egyptian-Japanese partnership in the field of education. For his part, the Japanese Prime Minister asserted that there are a number of successful models of Egyptian-Japanese partnership in Egypt, pointing that the Japanese government is willing to enhance cooperation with Egypt in various fields. Egypt called on all the national parties and forces in Libya to stop the escalation, resort to dialogue and exercise self-restraint to avoid more bloodshed. The Foreign Ministry spokesman Ahmed Hafez stressed the importance of protecting civilians and reaching a truce that would preserve the security and stability of the Libyan nation and people. The spokesman expressed Egypt's keenness on achieving a Libyan compromise in a way that would achieve the aspirations and visions of a better future and achieve stability in Libya. On the ground,